We cover the latest topics and trends making waves across the sport and chat with our industry's most prominent leaders, so your golf business stays one step ahead. Welcome to Golf Business Live, powered by Club Caddie. Here's NGCOA CEO Jay Karen, and owner of Augusta Ranch Golf Club and secretary of the PGA of America, Don Rea.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the April 2022 episode of Golf Business Live, powered by our friends at Club Caddie. We love those guys at Club Caddie. I'm Jay Karen, CEO of the National Golf Course Owners Association, and I have with us, of course, my co-host Don Rea, owner of Augusta Ranch Golf Club in Mesa, Arizona, and secretary of the PGA of America. Good afternoon, Don.
Good afternoon, Jay. Excited to be back.
Hey, why are you especially excited about this
fast.
episode? What makes you excited about this episode, Donnie?
Well, I mean, there's a lot. Well, the most important thing, it's our two-year anniversary as a couple. We've been together for 2 years, Jay. How special.
You are the Ernie to my Bert, the egg to my ham.
Still, there's got to be something better we could say. I could be the Laurel to your Hardy or something, at least.
Well, that's all right.
That makes me feel a little bit better. I don't know. I could be your golf coach. How about I'll be your PGA coach? That's what I'll do.
Well,
although you did pass your PT. So many things happened in 2 years. Look at you.
Well, wait a second.
Oh, hold a second. What do we got here, Taylor? Wow, we got some facial. What?
The COVID beard. It was just another filter to try to prevent, from catching the virus, and it didn't work because I got COVID last March, right when I had that giant beard. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for showing that, Don Rea. Well, you know what? I want to show a flashback video of our very first episode 2 years ago. This is a month after, maybe barely a month after the pandemic started wreaking havoc on our industry in the world. Hey, Taylor, roll the video from 2 years ago. Now we're entering this place where we may see a lot of new things in American society and culture, and that's going to make its way to the golf course, right? So on one hand, we may see a flood of pent-up demand and discovery about how wonderful golf is as something to get out there and do with your families right now. The second hand of that may be, what's the new normal going to be for the operator?
Once we get past this, right, of the way we're going to sell golf. If it's just going to be, once again, about this 8% of the population, I think we're going to swing and miss. It's not about score and stance and swing. I think it's going to be about spending time with your family, the things that we know already, that it's good for fitness, I mean, it's 2,000 calories, 10,000 steps. It's good for your family. You can play it forever, generationally. So I think, one, it's going to be a mentality, Jay, of how am I marketing my facility? Is it going to be the same 10,000 names I always have? Am I going to try to reach out with some Facebook advertising or other forms of communication to local businesses of talking about staying local? People want to do that now. Can we leverage that when we're done with this? But at the end of the day, we're going to be judged on what we did during this crisis. So I just make sure anybody, if you're out there cutting corners, if you're allowing that group of 12 to kind of congregate after their round out by your restaurant, don't do it. Don't do it. You've got some responsibility here to tell them to separate. I know they're entitled to their own liberties, and I get it. But also we have a responsibility as PGA professionals and NGCOA golf course owners.
Wow. 2 years ago, we were talking about what might come. And, how has your life changed in the last 2 years? Just personally and at the golf course. What would you say have been the most dramatic changes?
Oh my gosh. I mean, actually, how Facebook always puts those memories up, and the memory from 2 years ago was when I cut that PVC down to 6 foot, and it was my social distancing stick, because I literally was walking around the operation poking people in the belly to make sure they gave 6 foot distance between everybody. And I was running for secretary at the time. I think I was 20 pounds lighter at the time, and and I was actually really worried at that point. You kind of see it on my face, and I was kind of speaking to myself all at the same time. I mean, if golf was to close, I was 3 pay periods away from bankruptcy. There's no doubt about that. And I told Karen that, and she said, well, what do we do? And I said, we keep golf open. And so we did what we did, and wow, you know what I mean? I couldn't even guess. I looked at my numbers. I'm doing double the numbers that I did in 2019. It's
Wow.
crazy. Double.
Oh my gosh. That's who would have thought, right? Oh my gosh. Well, you know, today on our show, we're going to bring on in a little bit, Rhett Evans, the CEO of GCSAA. When I think back 2 years ago, we were in the trenches really trying to keep golf open because, you know, governors and county administrators and cities and what have you, they were being indiscriminate, just shutting businesses down. That's it. And we had to carve out an argument that golf is different. And we were successful. I mean, when I bring Rhett on, maybe we'll talk about that. But those were it was an existential threat because we know the golf business in many golf courses are what we like to call land rich and cash poor, you know, and it's, you know, if golf was going to shut down for weeks or months, and we didn't have any idea of what federal relief was coming. This was in the first few days, you know. It really was an existential crisis for our industry, but we were able to be, you know, we were able to, you know, show the goodness of golf and make our arguments, and it worked. It worked. But so it was a really an amazing time to see the industry come together. Yeah. So, but here we are, you know, a couple of years later, and a lot has changed. The conversations have changed dramatically. I mean, but when we're talking about, you know, what public policy issues are impacting golf now, we're talking about, you know, what should you do with marketing and everything from using OTTAs to marketing and price control, to, you know, customer service issues, labor issues. Things have changed in a big way. And our conferences, our magazine, all of our content is reflecting all of this now. And it's good that we're all here working together still on these issues. You know, just a little bit to the audience at home, you know, be sure to, if you have any questions for Don, myself, or Rhett when he comes on, is to submit them in the comments area of your chosen channel, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, and we'll try to get to those before our time is up. So why don't we talk a little entry shop here, Don, about you know, just some things that have been happening lately and things we've been putting out into the atmosphere for consumption. The recent issue of Golf Business Weekly, we ran an article by John Last from Sports and Leisure Research Group. And to break it down, what he said, two of the things that I thought he said that were interesting was that, you know, he took a pulse. He's got this pulse on consumers and what they're concerned about, what they think about. And the concern for COVID is shrinking dramatically as far as the impact on people's lives. You know, it's a fraction of what it was even months ago. But the concern of inflation and the economy is growing and growing and growing, right? You know, if you had a crystal ball here, Don, you know, what would you say if, you know, COVID recedes, you know, which it has? You just flew on a plane and you said less than 10% of people were wearing masks, you know, now that the, you know, federal judge kind of overruled the CDC on these things. What do you think is, you know, with post-COVID, or I should say the new normal, because COVID may never go away, right? But the new normal, where golf has plateaued, you know, and kind of it's gone up and it's kind of, you know, at this level now. But this inflation, you know, interest rates are rising. You know, the housing market has hit this unbelievable peak in pricing. Affordable housing is a major issue in the United States. Where do you see possibly this impacting golf courses in the golf industry? Do you think it's going to impact supply and demand?
Well, I think it's already impacted supply and demand. You know, while you were saying that, it makes me laugh. It's like the golf business, there's always another hole to play, and there's always water on the left and trees on the right, right? It just never matters. It doesn't matter. You get past one thing and you got to play another hole, and the holes are unlimited. And, you know, and we've had some mulligans in our life, right? I mean, this COVID thing is a mulligan to what Tiger did for the industry. And so, you know, first and foremost, I think when we do these things, it's just like you say, as a PJ golf coach, you know, you can't look at don't hit it in the bunker, don't hit it in the water, don't hit it in the woods. What am I going to do? I'm going to hit it down the middle of the fairway. I'm going to aim to the fat part of the green, and this is what I'm going to do. So one, let's stay positive. There certainly are going to be things that are on the fringes that are wanting to take our golf ball and give us a couple penalty strokes, but let's focus on the fairways, which is focusing on families and relationship. As far as Inflation, yeah, I'm scared to death, right? I mean, last year, the year before, my seed was 26,000 to overseed my greens and surrounds and tee boxes. Last year it was 52,000. It doubled. Word on the street is it's going to go up another 20%. So, wow, my goodness! Right now I'm at $60,000 just for seed, and I am starting to get a little pushback on pricing because people are reading the papers just like I am about inflation, and so it does. I do worry about that. I also just worry about. If we start panicking a little bit and get away from this player development thing, I do believe this is still about relationships. It's about making sure that you're out there talking to the people hitting balls on the range and getting them to love and learn this game. You can start, if you start feeling it and it starts constricting a little bit, will you start looking at labor and things like that? I think that, it's funny in the PGA of America, you look at guys who run for secretary or ladies who run for secretary, because ladies who run for secretary too. It was always that the PGA had too many members. We need more quality, less quantity. It's not about quantity. And that's really what the message was 6-7 years ago in the PGA. We need less members. Now, all of a sudden, we need more members. So I think there's a couple things there. I mean, I'm glad where the industry's going about work-life balance, compensation. We're certainly worried about recruitment and retention and all of those things. But I guess to answer your question about inflation, I think it's already happening. I think people are already judging how much money they're spending on stuff. And so let's stay away this time, away from commoditization, Jay. We don't want to commoditize our product and worry about, $1.99 or $2.99 or $3.99. Just charge what you're charging, but make sure the value is in the relationship, and they wear your shirt, not because it was on sale. They wear your shirt because they love your facility, because it tells them everybody about them, that they value family. They value golf and a game that's, you got to be your own referee. So let's focus on the fairway here, and that's relationships.
The golf metaphors are endless. You're excellent at this, Don. But there's truth to that. It's like I often give a SWOT analysis of the industry to a lot of folks at conferences and overseas as well. They want to know what's happening in the American golf economy, and this, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And they are changing. There'll always be something in every quadrant, every space, but they are changing, and we have to adapt, and there are bright spots that come out of this. One of the things that I think John last research said was that this kind of flexible work schedule, whether it's work from home or more flexible schedules, is here to stay. People they value that, and they think it's here to stay, and they want that. That's good for our business, our labor issues aside. Employment and trying to work with employees that want these things is one challenge that we have to meet as golf course operators. But for our customers, the openings for 9 holes on a Tuesday afternoon or in the morning, because, maybe I'm not going to start my workday until 10 a.m. so I can get out there at 7:30, get a quick 9 in. That, the conversation was always around the weekend tee time. That's it. Capitalize on the weekend. And and then do whatever you have to do to fill the weekdays. It was kind of like the broad brush kind of strategy, and that's changing, and that's a good thing. We're diversifying the full week as far as where demand can be, and I think that's a really good thing. Kind of a leftover effect of the acceleration of what's happened. COVID has accelerated things that were already in motion, like work from home, flexible work environment. That just accelerated that. So we're at a new place. So there are new strengths that weren't there just 2 years ago.
No doubt. And, I've said it before on this show a lot, there's price sensitive people and time sensitive people. And then the realm of revenue management, a time sensitive person, you're going to hammer a little bit because they need to play. However, I think we got to look at another meaning of time sensitive. And that is, as Zoom calls go away and people start going back to work, and obviously a lot more people are traveling, to your point, easily less than 10% of the people in the Austin airport and the Phoenix airport.
Don, you're on mute, buddy.
Did you mute me? That was so
no.
You know how good that was?
I did not mute you.
Where did you stop me? Where did I stop?
And those were the pearls of wisdom we were waiting for.
Oh, did you hear any of that?
No.
Oh my gosh, dude, I was killing it right there.
Can you repeat yourself?
What I said? Yeah, I can. Well, yeah, because I don't make this stuff up. It's in my brain. I was talking about time sensitive people. So, in revenue management realm, time sensitive people, we hammer them, right? Because they got to play. And what I'm saying now, maybe there's another meaning to time sensitive. And time sensitive now is, as people go back to work, they have to go in the office. There's less Zoom calls. There's real in-person calls. Can we build not prices, but products for people that are time sensitive so they can still enjoy this game with their family? Back 9 before the mowers make the turn, later in the afternoon, and we squeeze them on somehow in a 9-hole scramble that starts an hour before sunset, right? I mean, maybe there's things that we can do that way. So let's be smart to keep them on the golf course.
Oh, I like that a lot. By the way, I encourage everybody watching and listening to read the recent article from Harvey Silverman and Tom Apps that we published in Golf Business Weekly. It's kind of a duo article on their recent experiences with watching or considering golf lessons. It was just an interesting observation. It was really funny. These Tom Apps is a great PGA member, I believe, out of Wisconsin, and Harvey's one of our writers. So check out the most recent issue of Golf Business Weekly and read their article. I think you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So you were just talking about time sensitive and price sensitive. Well, our guest that we're bringing on today is just plain old sensitive. He's a sensitive guy, but I love him anyway. We have with us today Rhett Evans, the CEO of the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. Let's bring him on, Taylor. There he is. Hey,
sensitive. That's the only thing you could come up with. I mean, you were grasping for stuff there. Sensitive. Seriously.
This is the Disney Channel. Children are watching, Rhett, so I have to be careful with what I say to our audience.
I'll just start out with this. I'm a little disappointed, fellas. I watched the intro. You guys have been doing this for 2 years, and there's no intro music for me. I mean, nobody even asked, like, should we have some kind of theme song? Like, so when he comes on, like, Iron Man by Black Sabbath, or none of that. It was just Jay Karen saying I was a sensitive guy after 2 years. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right.
I would have done Three's Company. I would have played the intro to Three's Company.
Come on, knock on our door.
Three's Company. You'd be Jack Tripper. Right?
That was the Three Stooges.
Yeah. Oh, much better.
Oh, no.
Much better. Well, welcome to Golf Business Live, Rhett Evans.
Thanks.
You've been the CEO of GCSAA since 2011. You were the Chief Operating Officer for a couple of years before that. As folks know, or maybe not, that are watching, this GCSAA is headquartered in Lawrence, Kansas, and they do a lot of work on education, advocacy, workforce development, environmental sustainability, industry leadership, representing the men and women of the GCSAA and the entire profession. Rhett's been the chair of We Are Golf twice, I believe. Right? How the heck did that happen?
They always bring on the more sensitive people to try to lead out, Jay.
But before you were in association management, you were the director of Parks and Rec in the commercial facilities in Mesa, Arizona. Is that correct?
That's right. Don's hometown and home state. He's got the spring training. I guess spring training's over, but he's got the baseball. You didn't comment on that. I like that. In fact, I could go back here, and I'm not going to pull it off, but Sammy Sosa back there from Hohokam Stadium. Don, you'd appreciate that. Back in the day.
I did a few games at Hohokam Stadium.
Awesome.
Wow. It could have been that, Rhett, you might have been in the audience one day and Don was umping, I mean, that's a very significant possibility.
I probably yelled at him.
What's new? Nothing's changed.
Well, hey, Rhett, what is new in GCSAA land? Talk to us about what's happening with the association, these days. Again, we're talking about a new normal. Associations have had to pivot as well, and we're doing some things that we weren't doing 2 years ago. But talk to us about how things are with the organization.
Busy as ever, Jay and Don, and thanks again in all seriousness for having me on. I love what you all are doing, and trying to get the message out there of how important golf is to communities and to our members. So hats off for what you're doing. But here at GCSAA, obviously no different. We're turning and burning, and I was sharing with your team, Jay, before I jumped on. We were to do a little sound check, and I was late, and I'm sure they were freaking out. So I kid you not, I'm on a conference call talking about government affairs with Hava and Michael Lee about a couple issues that hopefully we'll get to here in a bit. And Bob Rehnquist, our COO, walks by my office and he says, "Hey, Jerry Moran's downstairs, and he's the senator for Kansas, Senator Moran." And I'm like, I don't have anything on my calendar. And he just stopped by. I mean, no appointment, no nothing. He was heading over to KU to do some things, and he had some free time, about a half hour. And so he swung by to do just to talk about the golf industry. And I think, again, it probably leads to your question, Jay, in terms of what's going on. Well, there's a ton going on, and the leaders, the lawmakers, communities in general are really starting to see the benefit of what golf brings to their communities. And so it's so nice to be able to have senators now popping in and asking us, what can we do to help the golf industry versus the other way around? And so anyway, that's one thing that's going on. And certainly Earth Day is tomorrow. And again, golf should be, touting loud on the mountaintops, everything that we're doing environmentally for our planet. That leads to another thing that we're working on right now is the environmental profile. So to collect data that is important, science-based, to share with lawmakers the true value of what golf brings to a community, to kind of get rid of some of those stereotypes of overwatering, overusing chemicals. So we've got that work that's being undertaken right now. We just completed the water that's going to go be published here in probably about a month. It's being reviewed right now by the scientists. But when you look back over the course of some of those things that we've already studied, water, we're down 22% across the United States. We're seeing nitrogen use or nutrient use down almost 53% in some cases, energy down 8%. So there's just a tremendous amount of activity that's going on with our best management practices and how we're really, I think, making a difference for the sustainability of this game. So that's just a couple of things, Jay, that are going on underneath our roof.
Let me ask you about the overuse kind of, narrative, right? Who gets to define what the right level of use is, because overuse, someone radical will say, well, a drop of water is too much for golf because they're anti-golf or whatever it might be. And, but where's the line of just right for use on chemicals, water, these kinds of things, because the reduction story is a positive story, but underneath that means, well, we had to reduce. So if we reduce, that means it might have been that we didn't have to use that much. You can see where someone might attack this, like, well, okay, how far do you go until you reach this place where everybody's happy?
Right. Well, and I think, obviously, depending on the types of playing surfaces that you want to create, whether they're a little firmer, a little faster, a little softer, et cetera, obviously that plays into the equation, Jay. But at the end of the day, we're dealing with a living organism, right? At some point, it has to be sustained. It has to have nutrients. It has to have water to survive. And so when you look at the plant makeup of primarily being 85+% water, at some point when you continue to cut that down, it's not going to survive. So science really is going to lead out there, Jay, and the research that we're doing to create those best management practices to give what you just described as the standard and what you can do to continue to improve that is out there. And that's part of a project that we've been working on for years of compiling all those best management practices in terms of how much to use, where to use it, when to spray, when not to spray, et cetera. We were able to complete a massive undertaking, and that was to establish the best management practices for golf course management in all 50 states. And to me, it was really a watershed moment for golf. In fact, we talked about it with the senator today. He wishes other industries, ag, et cetera, would have the wherewithal to bring an industry together and say, look, we care about this stuff. Number one, it's good business practice, right? It's going to save the Don Rea's money, et cetera, if we're doing things more efficiently, if we're figuring out the best ways to apply a product, et cetera. So it's in it's in our best interest to do, but now we get the environmental benefits. And so golf is being seen as a leader in best management practices. And then that leads me to one thing that, again, I want to talk about here today. And it's so important that PGA, the owners, the club managers, et cetera, continue to get behind this. And that's That's to adopt these things at a facility level. We can do all this stuff at a national level and have state BMPs and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, where the rubber meets the road is at Augusta Ranch, at Dobson Ranch, at Shadow Glen, wherever we're at, that's where the rubber meets the road. And what PGA professionals are doing, what the owners are doing, the superintendents out on the ground, our 19,000 GCSAA members, that's where we've got to get to and continue to provide them the tools and the ability to really enact and do the right things with the research and the information we have.
That's an amazing amount of work. And I know the BMP project has been getting to all 50 states has been kind of your white whale, and you're able to kind of capture it. And that's, congratulations to you guys for doing that. You mentioned a few minutes ago, kind of like telling the story of golf, the goodness of golf and getting that story out. You've been at this a long time with us. Do you think we are winning the hearts and minds of Americans when it comes to seeing golf as additive and positive? Or have we kind of, have we gotten over this negative hump that just seemed to, keep us down on this story? Have we done that? And if so, or, and there are still some detractors out there, who are they? How do we reach them? And what do we do to reach those folks?
Yeah, no, I would say overall, Jay and Don, that the answer is yes. I think that we've made great inroads, and people have really started to see the benefits of what golf does. Again, whether it's recreational, social, economic, and around the environment. However, to your point, there are detractors, and there always going to be, and thus the reason why we can never let off the gas. We have to. I mean, this is just it's a journey, not a destination, right? We're never done telling our story. And so the government affairs, what we're doing at National Golf Day, what we're doing with these coalitions, what we're doing with our committees at our respective associations, those things have to happen, and we can never let up on them. So for an example, and I'm going to bring this up and make sure that I get the bill number right, because I think this is important for all of us in this industry. To go to your point of, do we have detractors? Well, yeah, we do. We have one by the name of Cory Booker out of New Jersey, who just introduced a bill called Protect America's Children from Toxic Pesticides Acts of 2021. In essence, what this would do is he would ban or allow the counties, the cities, the HOAs, at a very local level to pick and choose what products we would be able to apply at a golf course. And that's just simply would turn into the wild, wild west. And so when you look at that bill and it's S3283, those are the types of detractors, Jay, that we have to continue to educate and say to them that, look, that's not going to be good for business. It's not going to be good for the environment. And we've got to continue to lead through science-based research and not through just political thoughts or actions that are going to ultimately lead to failure.
Let me ask you, let me split that hair a little bit on that particular bill. So if this bill would authorize kind of more local authorities, even down to your HOA, to kind of ban substances, if you will, are you saying right now they don't have the power to ban them if they're federally approved, with obviously regulations on use and so forth? I mean, there's labeling, there's a whole host of regulations, as we know, on the use of these. Do those local jurisdictions not have the ability to ban them right now?
Right. Thankfully, through state preemption, and there's 42 states. I think there's a couple, Alaska, Maine, that do not have state preemption. But because that is in place, it precludes those municipalities or those small townships, et cetera, to take control of that. Right now, it's being administered by obviously the EPA at a federal level through their registration processes that are extremely thorough. They create the label, which is the law, and they have the jurisdiction to basically enforce that. This would take that away to where, again, to your point, to my point and to yours, yes, it would be done with groups of individuals that really do not have the resources, unfortunately, or fortunately, to be soil scientists, to do the right things in terms of to really find out if this thing is what they say it is.
Yeah, I read the bill and summaries of the bill, and I got a couple more questions for you. They mentioned agriculture and farming throughout the bill. It seems to be aimed at food production, farming, because obviously if you're thinking, oh, the children of America, they're eating, the story, the narrative, oh, they're eating, pesticide covered, fruit or whatever, which, that's just obviously being hyperbolic. But so with agriculture and farming mentioned so much, does golf just get lumped in there? It's not necessarily carved out for, farms only.
Right. That's the problem again that we've been dealing with for years, right? Is that golf is always an afterthought most of the time, and so we get lumped into problems that really we haven't created. Again, we go back to the way that we're professionally managing these assets, how we're doing it. Those things get forgotten, and thus we've got to be a voice. We've got to raise up and say, look, hey, golf's over here, and here's what we're doing. And that goes both ways, in terms of how these things come across. And it's to also support those members of Congress or those lawmakers that recognize what golf brings to the table. And so, in contrast to that, Jay, there's also Congressman I'm gonna make sure I get the bill right here, Rodney Davis out of Illinois, who has introduced HR 7266, which basically states it would ensure that the EPA and the state-led agencies jointly regulate pesticide use. It would preclude localities from regulating pesticides, instead ensuring that agencies with scientific expertise are able to evaluate whether a product is safe and efficient, promoting the science-based policy. And so, so all of a sudden now we've got another politician or another lawmaker bringing something forward to try to combat that. We need to jump all over that and support Rodney Davis in his attempt to really keep this thing in check. So staying up to speed on this stuff and getting our constituents to just write a letter and to sign on to our activity is vitally important. I know the industry as a whole, the PGA of America, NGCOA, CMAA, ourselves, we've all written letters and you've all signed on to them, and we've got this in support and against, in the case of the Booker bill, really sharing with them our disdain for it.
Sounds like Senator Booker doesn't trust the EPA and the processes that they've went through to anoint what is safe and what is not, and so forth. So very interesting. Well, okay, so we appreciate your work on that very much, and we'll get the word out as well to the NGCOA members. Speaking of this particular bill, it's going to be one of our primary talking points next month in virtual National Golf Day, which will be the 10th and 11th of May. Unfortunately, it's virtual again because Congress still has a lot of restrictions on all those fly-ins and Capitol Hill visits, and just thought one more year virtual before we storm Capitol Hill in person. But besides the Booker bill or the PACTPA, whatever they call it, we've got a couple other issues we're going to be talking about, in the industry. One is still the FIT bill. We're making some progress on getting golf and golf equipment and under the FIT bill, meaning that people can use their health savings account on staying and getting healthy instead of just on medication and treatments for poor health. So that's exciting. We also have the H2b Visa. This is a perennial issue that keeps getting brought up, and it's where we welcome into this country immigrant workforce that helps sustain so many kinds of industries in America. And there have been restrictions on the number of people who can come to America to do this work. Agronomics, and farming and golf courses is a big part of it. And what we've been asking for is a raising of the cap, the returning worker exemption. So folks have been coming for years, they get exempted from that cap number and they can come back time and time again. In this labor market that we're experiencing now, where there are more job openings and coupled with low unemployment, it seems like even fewer Americans than before would be willing and able, mostly willing, to do some of the jobs that H2b Visa workers come and do. What do you think is the remedy here?
Well, obviously, to continue to fight for those H2b visas, Jay, is important, but we know it's not the panacea, right? There's only a limited supply of those, and it's not going to save or really make a dent in the labor challenges that we have across the United States, whether it's working on a maintenance crew or working in the pro shop, et cetera. food and beverage. So we've got to, as an industry, and I think this leads into some of the bigger initiatives, whether it's dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really starting to fish in some other ponds. The traditional way of getting labor, in our case, through the turf schools and kids, exiting high school and going and getting a 4-year degree in agronomy and then coming into the business. While that's still happening, it's happening less often. And so we've got to do some things to really start going to where, the attention is with these young people. And that's one of the things that, not to get off the topic of government affairs, but, we instituted the First Green initiative, which actually has been around for a long time, but we've taken it to a national level to where we're getting and using the golf course as a learning laboratory for STEM education. And it's a super simple concept, right? It's putting some kids on a school bus and bringing them out to Augusta Ranch and saying, hey, there's lots of cool stuff that goes on here at the golf course that deals with STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. Would you like to learn a little bit about it? Measure the stream velocity, look at soil, look at or measure the circumference of a green. And all of a sudden, kids start to think, oh, this isn't just about, I've got to be, Tiger Woods, or I've got to be, whoever. I can make a career out of this, working in marketing, working in engineering, working for, a manufacturer, being in sales. And so it's those types of things, Jay, and Don, that I think we as an industry continue to have to rally around, and not just solely rely on the H2b visas, et cetera, the traditional ways to get workers. But having said that, we cannot not stop doing those things that have worked in the past.
Yeah. The H2b visa issue I think the gears get grinded because it's Homeland Security is in charge of this, and Homeland Security is more about border control, and they're not about America's economy, right? And so, gosh, wouldn't it be interesting for us to try to get the H2b visa program under maybe the Department of Commerce administration or the Department of Labor administration or something with Homeland Security involved, obviously, but because it becomes an immigration issue, it just gets locked down. It's the third rail of politics, it seems like, in Washington. Don, your course, out there in Mesa, how are you, if you've got empty positions on the maintenance team or, anywhere, what are you doing to fill that? And we've got concerns about the bench strength that we've got going on in the industry and what's coming in the next 5 to 10 years.
No, to me, it's a different direction, Jay. I mean, I'm not ever going to get the H2b visas. There's only so many, and I'm a small little facility, and some of the management companies scoop all those up, and that's fine with me. I mean, really, the direction I want to go with this, Rhett and Jay, is how do we educate the masses? A guy gave me a term a long time ago called parrot knowledge. You don't need to understand it, but you should be able to repeat it at any moment. And I remember Sean Connors, who ran an irrigation company out here, and he started with Tom Patrick, God rest his soul, was a great man, and out here, and he started the Golf Industry Association, and they came up with less than 3, more than 3, the 6C. And man, we said that all the time. And what that meant was golf uses less than 3% of the water in the state of Arizona. We have more than $3 billion of economic impact, which it's more now because this was a decade ago. And there's 5 C's to the economy of Arizona, and every young kid learns them, right? There's citrus and cotton and everything else. We thought courses should be. So when I think of junior programs, I think of all these new people who are playing golf right now. I need some quick little things. I remember that We Are Golf card that on the back of it had 5 or 6 things. I want people to be able to recite that when someone says, well, I heard golf uses a lot of water. No, they don't. The sport I play uses less than 2% in the state of Arizona now, by the way. There it is right there, Rhett. And so I would like to see us do a better job of that. I've got 28,000 men and women PGA professionals. We've got a boatload of supers. We got a boatload of golf course owners. We've got club managers, but we're not singing from the same songbook. I would like cart signs. I would like it on the bottom of scorecards. I would like it on websites of just preaching to everybody that you got us wrong. Because, guys, I'm worried. We're starting to make some money. And guess what happens when you start making money? Legislators want to get some of that money, and they're going to try to come after us with all kinds of stuff. All the years we were just trying to make it, and now we're finally getting some money. And guess what we're doing? We'll put money back into the golf course, which helps with green space. But I think we are going to have to start getting on the same page, coast to coast, association, trade association to trade association. I think the PGA Tour is great, and I wish they could play some commercials during their broadcasts about how golf is good. I mean, PSAs about how golf is good for the environment played every weekend. Man, if we could get Jay Monahan to do that, that would be great. Because I just think it's time to talk about mental health, physical health, stewardship of water, and how we are so good for a community. We take green space and we provide tax dollars for that green space. We increase property values. We give more to charity than all the other sports combined, Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL. Who cares? We do more. So if we could start singing that, I mean, Rhett, you're always going to be an expert at all those numbers you were rattling. And I appreciate that. And that's why I love the superintendents, because that's what they focus on. But if we don't deputize every golfer, especially these new ones, and every golf pro super and owner with, hey, these are the things you should be talking about if you ever get the ear of a media person or a legislator, we're going to miss out, because the perception of our sport is that we use lots of water, only the rich people play it, and we're not diverse. And you want to drive in my parking lot, you'll see the opposite of all that, because that's what's happening down here on the Par 61. So you just got to tell that story, and we got to use these masses to do it, because otherwise this little podcast isn't going to change the world, but a boatload of golfers who love golf for the right reasons will.
One thing I love about like the first tee, was developed to teach life values through the game of golf. And you got the first green to teach STEM education through the business of golf. And, Rhett, that's an amazing thing. What if a golf course is interested in being part of that? I'd love to work with my local middle school or high school or whatever. How do they enroll? What do they, what needs to be done in order for a golf course to be a first green facility? To walk us through that, because I think that is a great bridge to the community.
Yeah, no, and before I do that, Jay, I just want to say one thing to Don's point. Amen. We've got 26,000 voices that we've got to use more effectively, and I think they're there for us. They just need that ability to do it, and they need the right talking points, et cetera. So I've made a note of that. I love that idea of how we get more of them engaged and telling our story. And so, Jay, I think that leads me to this first green concept, which really has started to do that, maybe on a small level, but we've got to start somewhere. And I'll give you an example of a field trip that just happened last week. And actually, we got 3 going on in our state in Kansas. One was this morning, but the one I want to reference, I was meeting with a member last week. He was in town for a committee, and he said, "Yeah, I hosted a first green event." I said, "Oh, how did it go?" And he goes, "Well, it was interesting. It was a little hard to get the school district to allow the field trip to happen, because some of the parents were almost protesting that they were going to take their kids out of school and take them to a golf course." And I thought, okay, well, there's our first problem, right? So they have this conception that just, golf for whatever reason is something that's not educational. It's just, we shouldn't be there, right? And so I said, "So what did you do?" And he said, "Well, we had to share with them the lesson plans and what we were going to be doing with the kids. And the fact that this wasn't just a fun field trip, it was going to be around education and STEM education." So they did that. Finally got 3 school buses full of kids. And guess how many chaperones showed up? 27 parents wanted to follow along and make sure that we were going to do what we said we were going to do. By the time we were done, and you've got everything in a kit, and you've got the pods, and the kids rotate around, and they're looking at soil, and they're measuring again the stream velocity, and then they're doing other things on the green in terms of just measuring circumferences, et cetera. And then they're looking at water quality, through a microscope, and looking at, habitat surrounds and pollinator programs, and et cetera, et cetera. The parents were all over this thing. I mean, they were just like, holy cow, I had no idea what goes on at a golf course. And so, again, that's 27 parents that were anti-golf to a degree, that now are singing our praises and thinking, it's okay for Johnny and Sally to actually work in this business. They're not just a bunch of ding-dongs that don't know what they're doing. They're just not dirt farmers. These are pretty smart individuals that know a lot about science, and they care about the environment. And so it's those little things that we can, get another advocate to stand up and say, no, that's not correct. That's not right. And that's to Don's point. You know what? That's not true. Golf doesn't use that much water. They don't want to do that. I was at a golf course the other day and I learned this. And as soon as we can get more people saying, I learned this, and that's not true. This golf course is actually, the water leaving it is cleaner than when it entered. So we've got parking lots and strip malls and housing developments and concrete and asphalt all over God's earth here. And, where does that runoff go? If it's not going and getting filtered out by turf grass or being captured in storm runoff systems on golf courses, it's going to basically go into the ocean and pollute the world. Yeah. So, it's just those little things that we can get out there, Jay, and the first green is one of those things to do it. And I'll just finish by saying this. We've created this thing where all you've got to do is hit the easy button. All of the curriculum has been built by teachers. Vetted by them. We've got curriculum starting all the way down into the middle school or the elementary school, middle school, and junior high and high school. We're starting to focus more on high school because we believe it's going to check a few more boxes. We've gotten, FFA clubs out. We've gotten wrestling teams out and football teams out that are coming out. And all of a sudden, guess what happens after they're done with, a rotation of a learning laboratory? Hey guys, hey gals, here's my card. Would you like to have a summer job or would you like to work here at the golf course? We've got some part-time opportunities or an even full-time opportunities. So we're turning it into a labor opportunity as well. And the last thing I get fired up about this, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. So we're doing all this stuff to try to reach a different demographic. All you were doing is picking up a classroom in any community in America. And guess what? It's diverse because it's what the community is. They're going to school. So they're female, they're Black, they're Hispanic, they're male, they're from wherever. And all we're doing is putting them on a school bus and taking them out. And we've got diversity, equity, inclusion, and we're reaching an audience that we've never been able to talk to before. So first green, I'm all in on this thing. I'm telling you, it's a pretty awesome opportunity.
I think it's great. You brought the wrestling team out, football team, these classes. Don, you should bring the local high school economics class out there to maybe teach them about the price elasticity of demand, and maybe they can help you bring that ryegrass price down when you're out there, help you with your negotiation skills on getting that overseed price down. What do you think?
I think that might be the problem. You bring a bunch of kids here and you start talking about the elasticity of pricing. It's over their heads, I think, but it's true. I think sometimes the emotional value of playing golf and being in the golf business is what's great about this. Right. And I think whether we have a labor crisis or whether we have an educational crisis on what golf actually does, I think sometimes we lead with the complexities of it. When those kids come out to the golf course, they can't believe the grass can be cut that small. They're like, that's real grass. And hey, raise your hand. What percentage of the water in Arizona do you think the golf courses use? They're like 50, 30, they don't know. And then you tell them, less than 2. And they're like, oh, no way. So I agree. I want to get them to that level because I think superintendents, they got to get more respect for who they are. They're hydrologists, agronomists, they're arborists. They do it all, man. They're chemists. God bless them. And I think in our junior programs, what's wrong with bringing a superintendent in to the parents, or to the classroom, whatever it might be, whatever age group it might be, and talk a little bit about golf and what it does for the environment. I think we've got right now more people kicking the tires on our sport than ever, and everybody likes those little Cliff Clavin, nuggets of knowledge. If anybody remembers Cheers out there, I always have to set this up, Rhett, because all these young guys, they don't even know what Cheers is sometimes. Although they're all watching Friends. I found out my daughter's friends are all watching Friends.
Yeah, it's back.
It's back. Yeah, but I'm not sure. Cheers is, but Cliff Clavin, I think when you give these little parent knowledge, information, when they're at that cocktail party and they're like, did you know this? Like, no, I had no idea. Everybody wants to sound a little smart. That's why we Google stuff before a meeting. And so I think we got to give them those Google sound bites so that we can sound a little smarter, because we are smart, but we just get so passionate about what we do. We don't tell them why we do it.
One of the beauties too, Don, just to piggyback on that, the beauty of this thing, getting the entire facility involved, right? Because we also, want to have fun with with the kids, and so we're getting the PGA Pro out there, and we're getting the club manager, and they're buying some pizza and putting some food out there, and the next thing you know, the PGA professionals teaching them how to putt, right, and how to hold a putter for their final little activity. And so now all of a sudden we've got the whole facility out there really showing and opening up their doors to their skills and what they know and what golf's about. So it's a great opportunity to bring a team environment to the club, the facility, the operation.
If I say one more thing, Jay, it's because you just
go for it. Go for it. It's your show. It was just got really cold out here, and a lot of our ficus trees and the entire community died. And a lot of homeowners didn't know how far to cut them back. They didn't know what to do. And so I did a video on our Facebook page with our superintendent, Eduardo Morales, and showed them, hey, just scratch the bark until you don't see green. And we taught them all that. And right now I've got people asking me, should I aerify? No, not yet in Arizona. You got to get the Bermuda grass growing. Should I cut back the water? We could do little things like that in our social media pages of giving the communities around us, hey, did you know, why don't you top dress with, mulch when you overseed? No golf course does that, but homeowners do it all the time. They're like, why? You don't need it. But these are little things that we could actually humanize what we do in the industry and give them little tips for their own yards.
Love it.
Telling the whole story of the goodness of golf in your community is critical, but it's also taking that story still to Capitol Hill. And I'm going to close on this. We have National Golf Day coming up. If you're interested, the only good thing about it going virtual is that anybody can participate from anywhere, or in this country. So if you're in the industry and you're inclined to be one of the voices in the chorus on this, go to golfcoalition.org and look for National Golf Day 2022, and you can register and sign up. I think there'll be some programs to watch to participate on May 10th, and May 11th is the day that there'll be all those virtual Hill visits with members of Congress, their staff members, and so forth. So join. We're riding a positive wave here. Be part of it. Get on that wave with us as we go to Washington and into our communities to tell the story about the goodness of golf. Rhett, I want to thank you for being here. On a personal note, I want to thank you for being such a strong ally of ours here at NGCOA. You've always been willing to engage in any conversation about any issue that could impact our industry. You have a fantastic team of people there in Lawrence, whether it's Hava or Bob or Cam and all the others we worked with over the years. We've been in a few foxholes together, and I still like you.
Well, I actually got to admit, because I'm a sensitive guy, that I like both of you. I've enjoyed seeing Don on the road, and just, again, have a tremendous respect for NGCOA and the PGA of America and all of our members. They're really the boots on the ground. They're the ones that are out there making this game work. And I mean, the only thing I'll end on is that, again, I watched the opening thing and I saw your guys' little, going back in history. And Jay, I've got to ask, and I didn't want to do it during COVID because everyone was kind of down and we were all like pretty serious. But that room that you were in, and was that Jodie Foster's panic room that like you had rented, and that you just were locked in there for 2 years while somebody was trying to break in? And I'm just glad to see that Don's talked you out of that foxhole, out of that panic room, to actually look where it's bright and cheery, and you got stuff that you can actually see. And
did you see me giving the signal? I was going like this, please help me, come get me, I'm trapped here.
It's just, I don't know, Don. I mean, thanks for helping him out of that. I don't know what was going on there, but it's good to see that he's actually. What you bumped your head too? What's going on there?
Yeah. I bumped my head right there. That's not skin cancer or anything. I literally bumped my head cleaning in my house. Rhett, some of us still do our own cleaning once in a while.
It's probably you're trying to break out of that panic room and hit your head on the hole on the way out.
I panicked.
Why is it
my
that
panic room?
Nervous people always call everybody else nervous? That's what they do.
Hey, good point. Oh, I love you guys.
Good.
Rhett, thank
All
you.
right, guys. Hey, thanks.
You guys have a wonderful month, and we'll see you guys next month on Golf Business Live in May 2022. Take care, everybody.
Onward and upward.
Yes, sir.
Amen.